Today is Monday, August 19th, 2024. This is Spring Office Hours, Season 3, Episode 28, SpringOne at Explore 2024 Preview. My name is Dan Vega, Spring Developer Advocate at Broadcom, joined by my good friend and colleague, DaShaun. DaShaun, how you doing today?
I'm having a wonderful day. It's a great time to be a Spring developer. And we have some big stuff coming up, and that's
We
exciting
do.
for me. It feels sometimes like the things that are happening out in our community, sometimes it feels like it's happening just for me. And this is one of
Yeah,
those
we
things where I
haven't
feel like a lot of this stuff is happening just for me.
we haven't had a show in a while. Some things have been going on, some travel, some work things, vacations, all those things have been going on. I think the last time we talked, we were like a month away from Explore. Now we're a week away, and we even said then, wow, this is like come up on us fast. And we had a
Yes.
lot to get ready for. So I still feel that way. 1 week out, I'm like, wow, this has come up fast, and still have a lot of work to get done to get ready for that. So
And I feel like I've been focused on it for a month.
yeah,
Like there's a lot of
yeah.
exciting things happening. I wanna impress, and I want to get people excited. If I can get somebody even just like half as excited as I am about the things that are happening in our ecosystem for Spring developers, if I can get somebody half as excited, that's it. Like that'll catch on. Somebody else will get excited because I am 100% excited about all the things that are happening.
Yep.
It's a
I
great time.
We'll get more into SpringOne. We'll talk about SpringOne at Explore this year. We'll talk about Explore in general. But before we do, I figured we get a chance to kind of catch up with each other. We haven't had a lot of good chances to talk to each other. I'm curious, just what you've been working on. I know Explore has been your main focus. So within Explore or outside of Explore, what's been keeping your attention over the last month here?
Have you heard of AI?
Yeah,
AI, it's a thing. It's pretty cool. That's taken a lot of my time. There's
same.
what's what I've been saying is like I think for me and my network, we've kind of gone beyond the simple smart bot chat bot type of application, and we're starting to get into like these real like let the AI do some work for us and
Yep.
make our lives a little bit easier, make our products a little bit easier. Uh, so we're getting to see some really, really interesting use cases, and not just about like how AI is going to solve problems, but also how AI is going to replace work that we've done in the past. So that's a big part of what I've been working on is these
Yep.
AI use cases and how, this next iteration of value that's being delivered. And then also, I'm a big fan of automation and staying on the latest and greatest. This whole like N minus zero life, open rewrite, and the new Spring App Advisor, making and demonstrating and getting feedback on what are the right approaches to doing this app modernization beyond just the bumping of dependencies, to do this continuously. What's the right way? Do you do it a step at a time? Do you like to have all of your merges applied, all the things? So yeah, there's a lot of interesting feedback that I'm getting, and I've been spending a lot of time on that. And then finally, vSphere, VMware, like our hypervisor, has some really, really cool features that are coming out. And it's going to allow me to do some really interesting things on my little, commodity gamer machine. Like nothing
Right.
fancy, but I can run Cloud Foundry because of some of the features that have come in the latest release of vSphere. So
Yep.
that's it. That's all the things. And then I play paintball. I played paintball on Friday with the kids,
Nice.
football team for my son's birthday, and I'm sore.
That
That's
sounds like a
so
lot
now
of
you're all
fun.
caught up.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. I remember doing a paintball with like as a team building exercising with a bunch of coworkers a long time ago, and I had the same reaction. It was a lot of fun. I was so sore the next
Yeah,
day.
I have wounds, bruises that I didn't think that I had. I left there like, oh, this is great. Adrenaline was pumping. I was exhausted, but the team building aspect. I coach football, and we had some
Mhm.
new players on the team, and we had some old players on the team, and outside looking in, just to see them come together at this point before the season has started, I thought, yeah, that was a really awesome benefit to, just going out and having fun. If I'd said, hey, it's a team building exercise at the beginning, it probably would have felt different. But
Yeah.
we got that added benefit of these kids getting to know each other a little bit better, building some different levels of trust, different levels of connections. So
That's awesome. I've been spending a lot of time in the world of AI too. Just I think similar to you, like kind of getting past some of the initial like just learning about AI and how to use AI, but really like how to incorporate it more into like my day-to-day stuff. And I think, at the beginning it was like everything was Chat GPT because that's what we know, that's what we've heard of, right? And I've gotten a chance to like explore some other large language models and like find like really good use cases for them. I have a couple of blog posts up at danvega.dev on Claude. I've been using Claude a lot more lately. I find with like
you've encouraged me.
I feel like with like coding exercises or anything related to coding, it's given me a lot more better outputs. And they have these things called like artifacts on there where like when you're on like the product on Claude's website, claude.ai, it gives you like a text file on the side that you can now like, hey, here's the code for this piece, and then here's the code for this piece. And so I've been like generating blog posts from like video transcripts and like doing a whole bunch of that stuff. Again, not replacing me, but just like I have so many like pieces of content that I can be working on. If I just like worked on like a blog post, like that could take me 2 or 3 days out of my week. And like, I want to be able to like
takes you
maximize my efforts.
A week, for
Yeah,
sure.
that's what I'm saying. Like
you're so good at it.
There's so many things that we could be working on and I want to work on all of them. And this is allowing me to like do more with the time that I have. So that's been fun. And again, just finding different use cases other than what it's really good at, which is dad jokes. I mean, the dad jokes out of the LLMs are just phenomenal. So yeah, been doing that. Hey, if you are joining us live, I see we got a lot of people live here today. This is great. Thank you for joining us. Let us know where you're from. Too. Yeah, we miss you guys. Let us know where you're from. Also, as you know, we are here live. This is a chance to get your questions in, not just related to today's topic, which is SpringOne at Explore 2024. Get those questions in. We'd love to have a discussion about some of those topics. And if you are not here live, maybe you missed us live, that's okay. You can watch the replay on the Spring Developer YouTube channel. You can also go ahead and catch this wherever you get your podcasts. We take this, we turn it into a podcast. It's usually up the next day for those of you who want to listen on the go. So, DaShaun, what happens if somebody has a question and they don't ask it?
Then it's their fault, right? I like to say, you've all heard it before, when you come to my house for dinner, if you leave hungry, that's your fault. When you come here and you're live and we have not just us, which we don't always have the answers, but we have a great community that can answer questions for you. And if we don't get to it right away, be patient, because sometimes they'll be answered by other members of the community. We have a great community. And sometimes maybe it just doesn't fit, but we see your questions. If we don't answer it on the live show, we like to tweet, we like to write blogs, and we'll try to get those answers.
All right, so before we get into today's topic, we do have some questions right off the bat, and I'd like to get to these. And I'll start with this one, which says, Open Rewrite is reliable for converting extreme legacy code from Spring Boot 1.x or 2.2.x to the latest 3.x version. DaShaun, I'll let you take this one. I know you're a big fan of everything Open Rewrite. So am I, but DaShaun's in the middle of this.
So here's the thing. Open Rewrite is the winner. This is what I've been saying for a long time. Open Rewrite's the winner when you're looking for something that can manage the code migration. This framework has one. There's been others that have popped up and disappeared, but this is the one that's going to be around for a long time. This is the winner. And there are recipes that exist for code going back to Spring Boot 1.x, and they're going to get you part of the way. But to say that Open Rewrite, the recipes that are available are going to cover all of it, that's not a thing. That's not fair. That's not a good expectation to have. It's going to cover the things that are ran into the most, right? The community is running into the same problems that you are, and the recipes that are going to give you the biggest chunk of benefit because they have the most use cases, those are the ones that exist. So if you're asking for advice on whether or not to use Open Rewrite, the advice is absolutely yes. But on top of that, I want you to have the right level of expectation, because once you have, and you're seeing more and more of it coming from all the libraries and frameworks that are out there, they're starting to see like, oh yes, this is the right way to go, and they're delivering their own recipes. But what you're going to see, where you're going to need a little bit of guidance, is for your product, the stuff that you're doing, the stuff that you're working on, that your company's building on top of, you're going to want to have a little bit of that open rewrite expertise in-house. You're going to have your internal library, that thing that nobody knows, so nobody can write a recipe for the thing that you wrote, that you're building your business on. And you're going to want to have to write, you're going to figure out how to write a recipe for that. And this is absolutely, Open Rewrite is the place to go. If you've got a library that hundreds of apps are consuming, you want to deliver a recipe to the developers of those 100 apps, internal customers, so that they can continue to move forward and continue to drive and get value out of the software that you're delivering.
Great response. I also think we get this question a lot, and I feel like people phrase this as a one-time thing, and I think that's the wrong way to look at this, right?
You're so correct.
Like we have a problem ahead of us of upgrading from 2.2 to 3. But this is going to be a problem every step of the way for the foreseeable future, right? We always want to try to get on the latest and greatest. I know we can't automatically be on the latest every single 3-month cycle or whatever, but like if we use this now and we develop some in-house recipes that help us move these things, we get that expertise of writing some recipes for our in-house projects. When we do this again next time, because there is going to be a next time, then we'll have some history behind us. We'll understand how that migration works, and we want to make sure that we're doing this all the time. This is not a one time every 5-10 years, right?
We could talk about this for the entire hour. That is the key. As you start using Open Rewrite to keep your code updated, we're going to get a new version of Spring Boot later this week, and a lot of us have things in place where that recipe is going to be ran, it's going to be delivered, and we're going to automatically get upgraded. Our entire portfolio of applications is going to be upgraded when that new patch comes out, when that new release comes out. And that's where I want to be. That's the future of software, is where our libraries are getting new releases. And as those new releases come out, we're going to have some automation in place that says, hey, there's a new release. Here's how you change it. Here's a PR to let you take that new release. That's the future of software. And being at that front, that N-0 life, that's where you want to be. And once you're there, you're going to start developing software a little bit differently. You're going to start thinking about maintainability of the software that you're delivering.
Great. All right. So I have another one here from Alik. Sorry for the pronunciation there. Hello, guys. I want to know if we can fetch request without using a GET mapping and response body. I mean, only use the HTTP servlet request. I'm not quite sure what you're asking there. So the GET mapping itself is for, hey, I want, we set up a controller, whether it's using at controller or at rest controller. In this case, it'd be at rest controller, right? And we do that to signify that this is a controller that is going to accept requests and return responses. The GET mapping is creating a mapping to that particular method. I'm not sure what you're trying to do with it, but you can get access to the actual servlet request. It is one of the method parameters that you can get access to. So if you want access to the raw servlet request, the answer is yes. If that doesn't answer your question, maybe you can just be a little bit more precise of what you're doing.
We're live. We can have a little conversation about this, and that's the other part here is this practice. Don't be afraid to ask questions, whatever works for you, and you'll start to find out like, hey, we need a little bit more information here to do that. There's a art to asking questions, and
yes,
growing that practice, those muscles are valuable. So ask your questions. But yeah, on this one, you can get access to that HTTP servlet request.
All right, another one from Memory Maker Films. Nice one. If you only had funding to go to one conference a year, which one in the U.S. do you think would be the best value? Um, so again, I would say SpringOne if we are actually having an in-person event this year because I love SpringOne.
Yeah.
Outside of that, there are a few. I'll mention a couple and let you kind of pick from them. And DaShaun, you could probably weigh in on that. DevNexus for me is one of my favorite conferences, especially for Java and Spring developers. This is in Atlanta, usually in the springtime. Just a great conference, well attended, so many tracks, again, in not just Spring, but in the Java ecosystem. You'll see a bunch of like front end stuff there too. So DevNexus is always awesome for me. KCDC, because I get to visit DaShaun and eat some barbecue. A little biased there,
Yep.
but I'm thinking those are two of my faves, and then we have some others coming up later this year that I'm really interested to see. Dev2Next is getting put on by Venkat. This is the first year of that, so I can't talk about that yet until we go there this year. But yeah, those are a few of my favorites.
I think there's another one close to you that's on my list.
Yeah,
Code
CodeMash.
Mash. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
CodeMash, and they just opened up their CFPs. So if you're interested in maybe speaking there, go ahead and check that out. I think it runs till September 15th. But yeah, and again, that one like KCDC are more like all around conferences. They have all different types of programming languages, front end, back end, AI, ML, similar to KCDC. If you're just talking like Java and Spring, you'd be hard to beat DevNexus. I think that's one of my favorites. So,
But I'll also take this moment to plug your local Java user group
yeah,
or your. I'm a big fan of DevOps Days.
yeah,
The whole DevOps
nice.
Days.
I see you guys just had Mark Heckler in town.
We did.
That's
And
awesome.
it was amazing. Here's the cool thing about having Mark in town. We've had AI has been kind of popular, so we've had kind of an influx of of members that haven't been around lately. So speaking on AI, we're kind of getting this pullback. But also the big thing for me is the amount of conversations and questions and interactions that are happening outside of the user group. We're starting to see this at least in Kansas City, this community connectivity coming back. So the people that are going to the meetings, they're scheduling time. We're having calls. We're having conversations about the last month's topic, but it's kind of continuing, and we're getting that organic growth. So at least here, we're starting to see it kind of. It looks like a little bit of an upswing in our Kansas City Jug involvement. So yeah, that's awesome. But back to the hey, if you're trying to save money, be affordable, take a look at your local meetups, your jugs, your DevOps days, etc. Because those are best bang for the buck.
Yep. Just a comment here, texting from South Africa here. A friend mentioned Claude to me this week, and they said almost word for word what Dan said about it being better than ChatGPT for coding. Please elaborate. So and again, I want to make a distinction here because I often like say that it's kind of like Whirlpool or brand names, right? The ChatGPT is the interface to GPT, and there are different models in GPT. Claude has an interface as well to their different LLMs, one of which is their newest one, Sonnet 3.5. I think with Claude, for me, the UI has a bunch of really nice features that maybe ChatGPT doesn't. I guess ChatGPT has some of them, but one for me is this thing called artifacts. And again, if I say, hey, write me a Spring Boot application that is a REST API based around a to-do with these fields. What it will do is it'll start like giving you directions on how to basically put this application together. And then these little artifacts are the different files. So it'll like, here's one artifact, which is the REST controller. Here's one, which is the record for the to-do. Here's one for the test that does a integration test for the actual controller. So you get these little like artifacts. I think those really help. And I just find that the code examples that I get out of there seem to be a little bit better. And again, I have the same criticism when I hear other people say this, when they say that it seems to be a little bit better. I'm like, well, what measurement are you taking on this? I don't have a measurement. I'm just going off of like my experience with it. So yeah, I've just found it to be a little bit better. But again, I pay for both ChatGPT and Claude at the moment, so I'm paying for both. And then another one I've been using lately is Perplexity AI. So if you want, I found some like really, again, different use cases for different LLMs. If I did this as an example with myself today, I said, hey, I'm going to interview this YouTuber Dan Vega, who's also a Java developer, on our podcast today. Give me some research for Dan Vega and like some questions I might ask him. What Perplexity does is it does a live search and figures out, okay, who is Dan, grabs his LinkedIn, grabs like all my videos, my blog posts, and then uses that as context for generating that response, which other LLMs don't do, right? LLMs are based on training data up to a certain date. So I found like the real-time research on a particular person was really good there. And you can use this yourself. Like say you're going for a job interview at a particular company, using Perplexity to say like, hey, I'm going on a job interview. Here's the person interviewing me. Tell me some things about them. Tell me some things about the company. Now you have like that research that would have taken you hours to get done right at your fingertips. So again, finding different use cases for different LLMs has been a lot of fun. So. All right. Let me see here. Next question. In Java apps, when does it make sense to use Spring AI versus connecting to a Python microservice to develop AI LLM-based solutions? Okay, so I think we've talked about this before on the show a lot. There are two kind of use cases for AI, right? Or not two, but the two that we'll talk about. One is, hey, I'm working in the machine learning space. I'm developing LLMs. I'm fine-tuning LLMs. There are a lot of great tools in the Python space for doing that, right? The other side of this is, hey, I just want to be a consumer of one of these LLMs. The GPT-4o, the Claude Sonnet 3.5, Perplexity AI. I just want to be able to consume that within my app. In that case, consuming that is just a REST API. Now, there are a lot of other things that you'll need to worry about when building out real-world applications, but we're just consuming a REST API and doing something with that. So that's my answer. If you need to use Python to like build LLMs, fine-tune LLMs, you're in that machine learning space, fine. If you're just consuming it and you want to integrate it into your existing applications or a new application, I think any language is well suited for that. Java in particular, because we're in the enterprise space and we have great projects like Spring AI that make it very easy to do. So anything you want to add to that, DaShaun?
There's a lot of projects. It depends, right? There's so many different things that kind of fall under this AI umbrella. There are a lot of projects that even a year ago, you might have reached for a Python library first. That today, because of the growth in the LLM space and the generative AI space, there are a lot of those workloads that can be replaced by something with Spring AI. And you can accomplish things in less code with more reliable results and a lot of less work. So the one that I lean into is like computer vision, right? There's computer vision with Python has been around for over a decade. Okay. And there are a lot of those computer vision workloads that exist. They're running in companies and they've been running for a long time. So why would I ever want to do anything with that? Answer number one is they're less efficient. They're more difficult to maintain. If you're having to build your own database, your own training data, and you're having to keep that updated, yeah, there's a lot of work in maintaining some of those Python library examples. And I'm not trying to say like at a broad level. I'm just saying there are some of these use cases where you can do it easier, faster, better, more affordably, and greener by using Spring AI. So it depends on your use case. There are some use cases that are just going to be easier to deliver, easier to maintain with Spring AI than by going out and doing it with a Python library. That's all. I'll just leave it there.
Great.
Even if you're connecting to the same LLMs with Python, if you look at a certain scale, the efficiency of Python it's a different level. So it's going to cost more to run some of these workloads at scale. So those are
Cool.
my answers without going.
Great. Simon brings something up. Good friend of the show. Simon says, on the flip side, AI worries me. It really lacks a lot of safeguards. And that's true. A lot of these big AI companies are putting a lot of money into this, and it's a very hard problem to solve for. What should we allow to be shown? How do I make a bomb? That kind of thing. What do we, there's a lot of question marks around privacy and safeguards in the AI space. So yeah, it's still new, fairly new. So yeah, hopefully we'll see some developments there.
And I'm leaning in deep into just because I'm a little nervous and I don't really want to train anybody else's LLM with the things that I'm doing here in the home lab. And we've said it here before. I like to run my LLM workloads here in my data center on their own VLAN and protected so that I have access and I know exactly what's happening. Because maybe I'm old. We'll just say it. I'm old. So I'm nervous about these things. So I want to make sure that the stuff that I'm feeding, and asking isn't being used to train something else and maybe against me. So I like to keep things local. And with the code stuff, there are a handful of models that I can deliver and run with Spring AI locally that are they're specifically for code use cases. So I've got a handful of those now running. And I think at the moment I've got like 15 different LLMs running in my home lab.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, if you're interested in running something locally with something like Llama and Spring, hey, we did a show on that not too long ago.
Yes.
That was our last episode, season 3, episode 27. You can check that out at springofficehours.io. Todd also weighs in here. It says AI does not take into consideration a lot of accessibility either.
Oh, but you want to know what was cool? I don't remember which stream it was on, but Todd was on, and we were talking about a vision use case, the alt text, and it was probably just a random stream where I was like, hey, here's an image, generate the alt text for this image, and it generated it. And Todd looked at it, he's like, that's good, that is a good alt text. So there is the good side there, right? When you consider, and this is where I get my goosebumps, Todd. That's because when I get Todd's stamp of approval on something accessibility related, then the goosebumps happen.
Todd would prefer us to be thinking about this first, but if we can find a solution to fix that, for those who are not thinking about it first, I'm a big fan of that too.
So what that conversation with Todd had me do was, I have a static site, static content site generator thing, go out and generate alt text for all the images that I published on my static site. And in Spring AI, that took like 10 lines of code. Done. Go out, parse, and the most of the code was the file parsing, doing the drill down for the directories. Done.
Yep.
There are some really cool use cases.
All right. We have some more questions here, but I want to get to the topic at hand. We're halfway through this show, and we have not talked about SpringOne yet. Don't worry, we will get back to this. One thing we often do, DaShaun, is we try to keep the community updated with things that are going on in the Spring ecosystem, because there are a lot of things happening. It's hard to keep up with all the releases that are happening, but you mentioned this earlier. This is a pretty big week. There is something happening later this week that should get this community pretty excited. What is that?
Well, later this week, we have the new versions of Spring Boot. That's what I was talking about. Spring Boot 3.3.3 is coming out. That's exciting. We had a new release today. We have some other stuff. We have a lot of stuff that's coming. But the new releases of Spring Boot plus a milestone release. These are the
for those of you at home, we're at calendar.spring.io. This is a great place to find all the latest on all the releases in the Spring ecosystem. And there's a lot going on this week. I wonder if this has anything to do with what's happening next week.
I mean, if I was going to a conference and I was going to talk about my favorite projects, I'd like to have all the latest and greatest things in there. So there's a push. There's quite a few things that are
So
being released.
I don't know if you noticed this too. We have some Spring Boot commercial versions there, which is interesting. So we have some commercial releases now next to the open source releases.
Yep,
Can you tell me anything about that? Is
I
this what's
can.
being
Pure and simple. As we're open source, and Spring has always been open source and will continue to be open source, it's hard to look back. Like, how far back do you want to go? Do we want to be pushing out releases for Spring Boot 1.5? No, it's a decade old. So there's a process in place on how these projects have their OSS support and then their extended commercial support. So customers that are paying for commercial support, they continue to get releases of the older versions of things, but they're paying for that. And because they're paying for that, those new releases, those CVE fixes, etc., for older releases that are no longer being supported by the OSS community, they go into a private repository, but that's all visible right here.
cool? Well, I'm excited. Spring Boot 3.3.3 comes out on Thursday. We are going to hear a lot about that next week. And what is happening next week? Let's go ahead and share this tab.
Yes.
And this is SpringOne.io. SpringOne is coming to you. So our flagship conference is VMware Explore 2024 this year, which is happening next week in Las Vegas. The SpringOne portion is being presented virtually. So you can join us. You can sign up for the live stream for free right here. We hope if you're not signed up already, please go ahead and sign up. So you can sign up for free there. And once you're signed up, you can go ahead and check out the live stream schedule. You'll see everything that is being live streamed. Not every single session is being live streamed, but there are a bunch of handpicked sessions that are being live streamed on SpringOne.io that you can go ahead and catch up with us on.
And in order to view the live, you have to register. It's not going to be here on YouTube. It's not something you're just going to find and run across. You have to register to get the link to view the live stream, but it's free. Go to SpringOne.io, sign up for the live stream.
All right. So the first one I want to talk about is this Spring Spotlight. This is kind of the keynote for SpringOne. There are a whole bunch of people listed on here, including me and you. Look at that. And
That's
Josh
amazing.
and Cora, Nima, Sebastian, Mark Pollock, Ossie, Paul, DaShaun. Oh, there's a whole bunch of people on stage for this. We're gonna have a lot of fun for this. We have some we've been dry running this. We're not gonna spill the beans on everything that's in this yet, but I've seen kind of the show. It's very exciting. It's packed with a lot of really great stuff and a lot of things that we've been talking about on this show over the last 3 to 6 months, right? So I get honors of actually being on stage first, DaShaun. This is really cool. I am the MC for the Spring Spotlight. So I'm really excited about that. I'm excited to get on there and introduce all of you wonderful presenters. And you have a interesting little session in there. You don't need to tell everybody what it is, but you can talk about it at a high level and just say, I'm excited.
It is going to be good. I have never put in more effort on a 10-minute talk than I have on this one.
That's awesome.
It's exciting. It's a cool story, and I think it's going to resonate with just about everybody that watches. And yeah, we're talking a little bit about the future of software, and it's really, really cool because the future is now. That's so crazy. Like, we're doing these amazing things. Our ecosystem keeps on getting better, and now we've got some tools to make some real differences.
And Josh is going to be there, so I can only imagine he's going to be doing some kind of live coding for us, which is always a treat. So
he's pretty good at that. He has
yes.
He has a lot of stuff in his brain, and sometimes I don't know. I'm a big fan. We talked about Mark Heckler last week. Josh, these are folks that just have a bunch in their head. And Josh is on another level where I think I could throw him in front of just about any Spring audience with whatever issue they had, and he could crank out a couple of hours of live code and level up an entire audience, whether that audience is 5 people or 50,000 people. He's amazing.
I'm excited to see Cora. I know what she's talking about. I won't spill the beans on it, but her presentation is going to be awesome. Sebastian Deleuze is going to talk to us about some really cool things. Mark Pollock is the Spring AI team lead, so you can infer what Mark Pollock might be bringing to the stage.
One of the things that I noticed in our community is like every different group, every audience that I go to, every group that I talk to, they always have like a favorite, right? Of course, we have hundreds of our customers. They're like, Dan Vega, he's my favorite on the Spring team. Like they dig in. And then I realize I also have my favorites. And I'm not going to say it out loud, but my favorites are on this list. My favorites are on this list. My top 5 on the Spring team are right here on this list. So it's
cool. And then look at this.
Cool.
We have a couple of folks from a little streaming company you might have heard of before, Netflix.
What do they do? Streaming?
Yeah, there's like videos involved. Yeah. So they're going to be sharing some really cool things too. So this is the Spring Spotlight. I know everybody that has been a part of this, not just all these people listed here on this page. There are a whole bunch of folks behind the scenes putting this together, writing scripts, putting schedules in place to put this Spring Spotlight together. And I'm really excited that it is a week from today. Like we'll already be done, won't we? Yeah. I mean, it might be going on now.
Yeah.
So that's crazy to think about. So if you have not already RSVP'd or registered, please do so. Sign up for the live stream. You can go ahead and watch this online next week. Again, once you're done with that, there are a bunch of really
good question right here. Is that Bill Dodd says, "Hey, registration requires company." Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yes, it does. The Gmail doesn't work for reasons. So yes, it does require a company email, but that's okay. You're not going to get spammed. This is just a free registration. Oops, sorry about that. And yes, register. It's worth it.
Cool. So right off the bat, some really interesting talks on Monday. What is Spring? With Spencer Gibb and Ryan Baxter. I'm sure that's going to be really good. It's really hard to pack What is Spring into 45 minutes, but if anybody can do it, I know Ryan and Spencer can.
Absolutely. Like I like the way that both of them present, and I'm kind of excited to see how they present together. I've not seen them present together, so I'm a fan.
It's true. I don't think I have either. Spring Tools Live, Brian Benz. I've had a chance to get on a couple calls with Brian, and I'm excited about this. I have not had a chance to meet him in person, so I'm really looking forward to seeing Brian in person. Spring MVC as AWS Lambda. Ooh, that sounds like a lot of fun.
That's gonna be a good one.
Oleg's going to be talking about that. That you can create basically Lambda functions using Spring, writing the same kind of code, can deploy to AWS Lambda, can deploy to Google Function. But then in this case, we're talking specifically about AWS. And Oleg's joined on stage by Matthew, who is a senior serverless specialist at AWS. So that'll be really cool. If you're interested in kind of serverless and Spring, definitely cool. Delving into Spring Boot Netflix's application framework with Ossie Bross. He will be part of the Spring Spotlight. So I'm pretty sure whatever he's talking about there will kind of deep dive into this. So
I've got to listen to Ossie talk. He's brilliant, and he's really, really good at kind of like cutting to like, here's the important stuff. That's the thing that I take away from the way he talks, whether it's in a meeting or a presentation. He is solid, like doesn't waste any time, high value. Don't miss that session.
We got a comment here. Why are you not sending a calendar invite after the registration? First off, Codecraft with Kevin, DaShaun and I did not put this registration together. So but we will take your feedback back to the team. And let them know that you have this suggestion. So thank you for that.
I think you will get one. It might just not be immediate, but I think you will get one.
Awesome. And then rounding out the day, some Dan dude is talking about REST and GraphQL. That'll be fun.
This may or may not be one of the most requested talks that we have, right? Outside of what we do when we're doing conferences and content. Dan with our customers, they're always asking like, hey, help us learn the new stuff. And this is one of our most requested talks
Yeah, so this is going to
for
be fun.
reasons.
I've given this talk a lot of times, but I have updated this to include some of the newer things going on in the world of Spring for
Yes.
GraphQL. So
Lucky
that
for
should be a lot of
us.
fun. All right, so that moves us into Tuesday. Oh, did we not tell you this is not a one-day conference? Oh, this is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3 days of content here online for free. So that's day one. Day two, we get into some Spring Security 6.4 with Rob Winch. Very few people on this planet that can talk more precise about things going on in Spring Security than Rob. So that's going to be really interesting. So I know Spring Security is one of those things like hard to keep up with, like some of the changes that are going on. If that's crossed your mind and like, how do I keep up with what's new? This is going to be a session that you'll definitely want to attend.
And here's what I can say. A lot of the changes that have come out of Spring Security have been changes to make your life easier. Easier configs, easier defaults, and that trend continues with these new releases.
This sounds really interesting to me, DaShaun. Building and monetizing generative AI plugins with Spring AI. So again, we've done a lot of content on like, hey, this is Spring AI. This is how you build Gen AI apps. But never have I talked about like how to monetize that, how to like build something that could be some type of product, right?
Dennis is a big thinker.
Yeah,
Like
I love Dennis.
he doesn't shy away from big complex talks and concepts. So this will be special. He is a big thinker. He knows how to get, at least for me, my juices flowing, and he gets me excited about technology.
I was going to say, I hope I'm there to see that, but I think I am seeing that. So that'll be awesome. All right, next, building GraphQL services with Spring Boot like Netflix. So this is really interesting. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but the projects on the side of Netflix and the project, which is Spring for GraphQL, have done a lot of collaboration. I mean, they have for years probably, right? They've talked to each other, but there's been a lot of collaboration recently to get Netflix's DGS framework kind of combined with the things that we're doing on Spring for GraphQL. So now, if you want to go create a new Spring project and still use Netflix's DGS framework, you can. So there's a lot of collaboration going on there between those two teams, and it looks like nobody's better to talk about that than Paul. Netflix uses a ton of Spring, a ton of Java, a ton of GraphQL. And if you want to see how one of the biggest companies out there in the world is using that, this I think is going to be a really good opportunity. So if your bosses are telling you GraphQL is like this fad and nobody's using it, this is really good, way to kind of level set and find out how one of the biggest companies out there is using it.
Another comment that I like to make about Paul is, a lot of times, well, Netflix does it this way. You'll hear people talk, well, Netflix does it this way, and they did it. A lot of those Netflix does it this way things, a lot of that feed, the blogs, the videos come from Paul. At least the ones that I'm listening to. Paul has been an amazing benefit to the community because he shares the details of what they're actually doing, and he doesn't sugarcoat it. He's like, hey, this is what worked for us, this is what didn't. Yeah, he's
I don't know how he does it. He's like a staff engineer. He's working on all these projects. He's also a developer advocate over there. He's on all the videos. Yeah. He's writing these blog posts. He's doing everything.
We're lucky to have him.
Yeah, I'm excited to meet Paul in person too, because again, I haven't met Paul, but I will meet him in person this week. So just a quick comment here. What is Spring AI, DaShaun? What is this thing?
Spring AI. There's a couple of ways I like to think about it. First of all, if you've ever used Spring Data, we've been doing it for a long time. We've had this ability to switch between Oracle one day, Redis the next. We have an abstraction layer over our databases. Spring AI does that same thing over the LLMs, large language models. I can have my exact same code, swap out a couple dependencies. I can switch from Claude over to Bedrock. I can switch from Bedrock over to Olama. That's what Spring AI does, and it has this nice abstraction layer that gets you a bunch of the capabilities that you'll need across all of the LLMs that you might have access to.
Great answer. All right. Next, efficient containers with Spring Boot 3, Java 21, and CDS by Sebastian Deleuze. Again, not many people that can talk about runtime efficiency in Java and Spring better than Sebastian. So this is going to be another one of those, you have to watch this. CDS, what is that? A couple things, right?
Class data sharing. That's what you need.
And
It's something that's been around for a long time, but now we just get to take advantage of it automatically and easily. So yeah, it's like it's gonna make our apps start up faster, use our memory a little bit more efficiently. It's the
yeah,
business.
and this for me has been a theme since like Spring Boot 3, right? With AOT, and like it just seems like
Yes.
every release of Spring and even Java, like we are all trying to find ways to improve runtime efficiency.
Yep.
Okay, and then rounding out Tuesday, beautiful Spring Boot with Josh Long. So this is going to be an hour of the fastest typing you've ever seen in your life, or 40 minutes, 45 minutes.
And I encourage you, like, pay attention. Even with Mark last week, like when Josh presents, so I like to try to keep up. That's my measure of how far along I've come. If I can keep up with Josh while he's doing a live demo, then yeah, the life is wonderful. But it's an experience. He delivers things in an easy to learn for me. And he's always, got a little bit of humor in there, but he also does a really good job of connecting the dots. Things that he does at the beginning of the session will be very relevant and visible at the end of the session. Top to bottom, you're gonna have fun at this session.
Cool. So that's 2 days. I mean, that was enough. I mean, that's so much content. But we have one more day. There's just one more. A whole bunch of really great sessions on Wednesday, starting it off at 2:45 p.m. with our good friend Tiffany. She's going to be talking about let's generate art with Kubernetes and Spring. Ooh, cool. That sounds like a lot of fun.
It's gonna be good.
I think those are all your favorite buzzwords, DaShaun. Kubernetes, Spring, art, images.
I like buzzwords. I like to do things.
That's going to be a lot of fun. So check that out. Scaling APIs with Spring Cloud, Luke Shannon and Spencer Gibb. So that's going to be really cool. So yeah, I'm sure we've all like built some APIs in Spring, but like, how do you scale those? Where does Spring Cloud come into that? If that's something that's kind of new to you or on your radar, or you weren't quite sure that was a possibility, definitely a session that you'll want to check out.
Like as we're getting towards the end, like there's none of these sessions are like, oh, I can see that later. No, you can't. These are amazing sessions. This is a great lineup. This is a powerful track. I don't want to miss any of them.
It's crazy that these are just the ones we're live streaming. If you're there in person, there are more sessions, which is going to be awesome. So, next one. This is on my radar, and I'm not even going to be able to see it. Hopefully I'll be home in time to watch the live stream because I will not be there for this. But beautiful artificial intelligence with Josh Long, Mark Pollock, the Dr. Mark Pollock, and the great Rod Johnson, creator of Spring.
Did he create Spring?
He did.
That's amazing.
Wow. That is a lot of intelligence on one stage. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Why would anybody be like, oh no, that'll be fine?
No,
I don't need to see that.
Another one from Paul over at Netflix, learnings from Netflix to effectively test with Spring Boot. This is good. This is not just me showing you some silly demos on how to write a test or an integration test. This is somebody who's out in the wild at the highest scale, showing you how to write effective tests in Spring Boot. So that'll be good. Spring Modulith and I, an apprenticeship in team building, Tim Sparg. That is going to be cool. Engineering lead at Air France, KLM. So that's going to be really cool. We've actually talked to Tim about this.
Yep. And it's the type of conversation, the type of talk that I like. I like to hear about how things are actually working inside of companies.
Mm-hmm.
right? Versus the like, hey, here's a cool new library framework that it can do this if you go down this path. What Tim's going to share is kind of like the real world experience of adopting Spring Monolith and the things that he's learned along the way.
Yeah, this is awesome. I like that what he says here. It was shiny, exciting, and promised to help create a architected system. And then he goes in, join me as we talk about what we did with it, what we could have done better. Always one of my favorite things. Like, hey, this is what we did with it. Here are the lessons learned. So you don't have to go through that same process. You can already take some lessons that they learned along the way. So cool stuff. And then last but not least, on Wednesday, our good buddy, friend of the show, Jonathan Ivanov, Micrometer Master Me, unleash advanced observability in your JVM apps. Yeah, that's always awesome. I love listening to Jonathan talk about micrometer or micrometer. Either of them are fine. But he always does a great job of both explaining kind of concepts. And as you said, one of your favorite demos out there is that T demo that they have that goes through and actually shows you how some of these things work. So
this is packed.
That's a lot.
This is packed.
So again, if you're looking at the schedule and you're like, oh, I want to watch that one and that one and that one, all you got to do, sign up for the live stream.
And
fill this out.
If we're friends, if you consider yourself a friend or a friend of the show and you haven't signed up for the live stream, it hurts my feelings a little bit. You should definitely be signed up, and you should tell your friends to sign up, because you're not going to find better content at this time. Right? This is bleeding edge, latest and greatest, plus tons of lessons learned. This is going to be the most powerful live stream that I can think of, that I can remember. This is going to be.
See this comments box. If you just want to throw in there, hey, I found out about this from Spring Office Hours, we won't be mad at that either. So.
Won't be mad.
Cool. So that is so at a whole, we are going to explore 2024. This is the larger conference. SpringOne is the spring related content that we will be live streaming, but there's a lot going on at Explore. This is 3-4 days of content packed in, but a whole lot of other things going on. I know you're really busy. You have some other, a whole bunch of sessions going on that aren't on the live stream. So what are you working on there?
Let's see. I have one about bulletproofing your Spring apps. I have one about some of the things that we take for granted. There's a lot of really, really cool tips and tricks, secrets, if you will, in Spring data that everybody should know about. Right? You've talked about a few of them. Like, there's just a bunch of value that makes Spring data can do to make your life so much easier.
Yeah.
And then lastly, AI. I'm doing a talk with Nick Kuhn. Yep. Yeah. On Spring AI loves Gen AI on the cloud platform. It's very, very
that'll be fun. And then we are also, again, we were talking about this morning because I'm still looking at the schedule. We are involved in a Spring AI roundtable with Mark Pollock. And that is actually offered, I think, a couple of days across the conference. So that'll be a lot of fun. We'll also be at the booth. Love me some booth duty. Love talking to everyone coming by the booth. So we'll both be there for that. Yeah, we were just talking about it before the show. Our schedules are packed. We have a lot to do. So really looking forward to it, though.
So I'm getting all my sleep, getting my exercise on. So I have all my energy. I got the right shoes packed, because you're gonna want to have the right shoes. It's gonna be a good time.
Yes.
Yeah, it's gonna be amazing.
James with the comment of the show: friends don't let friends miss the Spring IO live stream. I agree, James.
Nailed it. Nailed it, James.
For sure. All right. Yeah, I think we have a few more questions. Let's see if we can get to a few more of these. What are some of the best practices for JWT with Remember Me?
I think the best thing I can say here is watch Let's Explore Spring Security 6.4 with Rob Wench on Tuesday, August 27th.
There you go.
1 week from now.
That's a good one.
And we'll be able to go deeper than we can in the 3 minutes that we have here.
Yeah, I couldn't have said that better. Here's another one. I'm about to start a new project that will have multiple packages that can be modules. Should I rather go with Modulith or just split them out into microservices?
Pick me. Can I answer this one?
DaShaun, you're up.
I know. you should start with Spring Modular. That's why the project is there, because of all the things that you have to deal with to deliver microservices, all the things you're not thinking about, the network, the routing, all those things. If you start with a Spring module, you can always expand it and deliver it as a microservice later, but why start with all the extra mess when you're just trying to get to an MVP, get a feature out? Start with Spring Module. You can thank me later.
And I think, we do live in this world of like microservices is thrown around everywhere, and we tend to like overcomplicate things, and like everything needs to be a microservice when it doesn't. So unless you have a ton of experience with microservices and understanding which services are good candidates to be a microservice, as DaShaun said, I always like starting with a monolith, and in this case, a modulith, because if you realize that one of those just need to be pulled out as a microservice, Spring Modulith makes it easy to do. So I think that's a good place to start. Hey, you should sign up for the live stream at SpringOne.io, because there'll be some talks on Spring Modulith there. So go ahead and check that out.
Absolutely.
All right. What kind of hardware or GPU are you running to achieve your local stack for local LLMs?
Here's the cool thing. I run Old Llama on Raspberry Pis, on commodity. I'm going to pick one up because I have some sitting here. Raspberry Pi devices. They can run these models. You won't be able to run the 128 gigabyte models, but you can run a lot of these models on something as basic as a Raspberry Pi. So if you're letting the fact that you don't have a GPU stop you from doing it, stop right there. You don't need a lot of hardware or a special GPU in order to get started using Spring AI against these publicly available LLMs. So that's the number one answer is don't let the lack of GPU prevent you from going. It'll be slower. If you have a GPU, it'll go faster. But if you're just trying to get out the door and learn things, don't let the GPU prevent you from getting started.
And I'll refer you back to our previous episode on Llama and Spring AI. We walked through some examples. We talked about Llama 3.1 from Meta. As DaShaun pointed out, there are different versions of those models. You're not going to be able to run Llama 3.1 40B or something that has like 40 billion parameters or something. So there are smaller models that you can download onto your machine and use those. And as again, just you're taking it for a test drive. You're not buying the car yet. You're just taking it for a test drive to see how things work. And I think that's a really good opportunity to do that. So, Simon says, AI image generation with Flux and Pinocchio is quite interesting, though for placeholder asset generation. Do you still pay artists? Good question. I have heard of Flux. I have not heard of Pinocchio. It's just there are a mile-long list of things I need to like learn, and Flux is on that list. So, we'll have to definitely dive into that.
I took a note on that one, Simon, because that's something I'm like, I think I have an itch to scratch.
I love this comment from YouTube says, I love learning open source projects and adapting their best practices in my work. What are some of your favorite Java Spring open source projects in terms of clean code and architecture?
I've learned from the Spring framework, Spring Boot, Spring Data. I've learned from their examples. So that's where I start. When I'm trying to like say, hey, I want to be a better coder, I look at the Spring projects to see what good looks like.
Yeah, I would say one that comes to mind, Jitter Ted, our good friend Jitter Ted, who streams on YouTube and on Twitch. He does a lot in the kind of clean architecture, uses different patterns for that. He has a lot of great streams on that and has some good open source projects on that. So check that out. And yeah, under the Spring projects umbrella, you'll find a bunch of good examples. Another thing I always do is go to GitHub, search for what you're trying to like find, like in terms of like maybe you want to see if Spring Modulith is a part of it or Spring AI. And then just kind of sort by number of stars or number of forks so you can find some of the more popular projects and then see which ones have been like recently updated. That's always a good place to start for me too, just in like seeing how other people kind of write projects. So, all right, last but not least, hey guys, can you provide information about Spring certification and recognition, value of it in industry? Are there multiple certifications? So one thing we know now is if you want to go over to spring.academy, this is a really good place to start if you want to kind of learn, just like learn some foundations in prep for the Spring certification test. This used to be something that cost you money and then you got a free certification voucher for. Spring Academy is completely free, and then you can purchase a voucher for the Spring certification for something like $299 or something like that, which used to be a lot more money to do in years past. So now there's a place to learn. There's a place you can kind of pick up your voucher and then go take the test. As far as value, we've talked about this before, DaShaun, value of certification. What do you say to that?
It depends. It depends on where you are in your journey. It depends on which industry you're in. But at the high level, like for me, I'm a Spring developer advocate. When I get to have a conversation with somebody that I know is Spring certified, I can have a different level of conversation. So I find a ton of value in that certification.
Yeah, and I would say from an industry standpoint, it's not going to hurt to put on a resume. I always say that from a value perspective, value is kind of starts within, right? To get a certification, you have to go through the process of like learning all the things that you need to learn to get to that certification and pass that certification. So for me, the journey is much better than the destination. Yeah, you get this piece of paper that says you are certified, but the journey of going through that and learning all the things you need to do to get that certification is really where it comes into play. And now, not only do you have a piece of paper that says I know all these things, you actually do know all these things. So cool. All right. I think that's all the questions we have. DaShaun, the next time that we talk, we will be in person.
We're sitting right next to each other.
Unless we talk this week, which is quite possible.
I'm excited.
So, hey, if you are, we've said this a few times, but SpringOne.io, go sign up for the live stream. Catch us on the Spring Spotlight, which will be the first session next Monday morning. We're excited to let you see everything that comes out of that. That and everything here in this conference is a lot of people have put a lot of really hard work into. So we're excited about that. I can't wait for SpringOne. I can't wait for Explore. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Fantastic. Let's go.
All right. With that, we will see you in the live stream next week because we know you've all signed up. So we will see you there. And then I think what we'll do is maybe set up something for the following week to kind of recap the week that was. Do something like this again and hopefully answer some questions. So thanks everyone for joining us here in the live stream. Thanks everyone for joining us wherever you get your podcasts. And if you can, please do us a big favor and leave us a comment. That really helps us out. With that, we'll see you in the next one, friends. Have a good one.